Hi, it's John. Today's project will create this beautiful card. It's a floral stamp from All and Create with an enjoy your special day sentiment. I've done some stamping around the edge with a basic edging stamp. I've also blended two Lavinia Elements inks in russet orange and Bermuda with some splatting, and then added some Metallic Gilding Polish around the edges to give it some interest before mounting it onto black paper and then onto a white card blank. You can see the detail there is absolutely lovely. Watch the video and enjoy. Hello, this is John, and today we're going to make a cute card with a floral theme for a friend of mine. So I've got some clear embossing powder, I've got a random edging stamp set, I've got this lovely floral set from All and Create, which we're going to use as the main focal point. I've got some white basic card, some black paper, some Elements inks by Lavinia, some clear wow embossing, a jelly pad, and I'm also going to use my gilding polish today, but just for edging. So to start off with, I'm going to take my actual basic card and a clear acrylic stamping block. The first thing we're going to do, actually no, I'm changing my mind already, which is a good start. The first thing I'm going to do is stamp the floral bit because it's the main feature. So I'm just putting this into my Tim Holtz tonic stamping platform, which is a brilliant piece of kit and holds everything in place. Today we're going to do the resist technique. So I'm going to be stamping in clear powder, and then I'm going to be heat embossing it so that it stamps in white, and then I'm going to ink over the top of it. I'm just noticing there's a little bit of ink residue on my flower there from the last time I used it, which I'm just cleaning off. And then we're going to colour over the top of it to create an interesting effect. So I'm thinking floral there. And I'm going to use one of the sentiments that also comes with this set, which I think is, here you go, enjoy your special day. This is for a birthday, so that's an absolutely perfect sentiment for that. And these are all individual stamps as well, which is quite good. They're a bit fiddly, but it's quite good. So enjoy your, sometimes easy to move these with tweezers because they don't stick to the tweezers. They are very sticky. Enjoy your special day. With this quirky style of stamp as well, it doesn't matter too much if they're not perfectly lined up. I actually quite like the sort of random nature of this, which is one benefit of having individual stamps. If they were all joined up, you wouldn't get any flexibility at all. So right, so that's our layout roughly. So we're going to have the flower to the left, the text to the right, and then we're also going to do some edging as well. So get those in position, put your platform down and press to pick up the stamp. Now this often happens, so we need to put that back. That's fine. And then we'll just need to recheck the positioning again. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to use my little anti-static mat just to make sure we've got no sticky residue or handprints or whatever on my card base. And then I'm going to use my clear powder, my clear embossing pad to ink this up. Go over the whole stamp, moving your pad as you do it, just to make sure if you've got any areas that aren't particularly juicy, that it gets a good ink. Right, put that down and give it a good press. let that ink soak into the paper. And with clear, I always tend to do a second go, just in case. Give him a good press. Right, I've got my clear ultra fine embossing powder here. I can see the image there. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it looks good. And I'm gonna literally dip it into the powder. These stamps from All and Create are absolutely beautiful. They have so much detail on them. They really are beautiful. That looks good. Right, I'm going to heat emboss that. Apologies for the noise. This is where the magic happens. So as I heat emboss that, it will set the clear embossing powder on the white paper, and then when I colour over the top of it, that won't get coloured. This is where the magic happens. I love this stamp, I think it's beautiful. So heat the front, give it a good go, and then always heat the back as well. It stops the cardstock from curling too much, but also just ensures that if you've missed any powder that's not been heated, obviously a second go picks any of that up. There we go, and hopefully you can just about see that. Beautiful image. Right, clean the stamp off with my trusty wet cloth. Don't use wipes. Wipes are bad for the environment. Just give that a good clean and pop that back onto the stamp set. I always keep my stamps on the stamp set original that comes. I think it's the best way to keep them. I know other people do things differently and put them into little packets, etc. But I just find this is the easiest way. I remember the stamp set I buy, so I always sort of know where to go with my stamps. There we go. This is a relatively new stamp set for me. I only bought this at a craft fair earlier in the year, but I do really like it. I haven't actually used all the other stamps in the set yet, so there's some stuff to do for the future. Oh my God, I'm making the right mess of getting this back in. There we go. But there are some other beautiful flowers in there. That would be beautiful in a corner. That's a good element piece, and that as well, that could be used on another card. Okay, now we're going to do some more random stamping where we don't actually need the platform. Just with these sort of random edging stamps, really. They just create a bit of interest around the edge. I think I'm going to use that one, actually. It's a nice contrast to the natural flower to use something that's quite an unnatural shape. So I think I'm just going to use that one. These were off, I think I bought them from AliExpress. Super cheap, super cheerful. Right, so I'm sticking that to a stamping block, and then again, just going to use my clear ink pad. This is just embossing powder. And I'm just going to randomly go around the edge, not paying too much attention. So I'm using one side of the stamp there, and then I'm going to use the other one here, so I don't need to re-ink it. This stays juicy for a while, so I can carry on without having to put it in the powder yet. I'm not going to do it everywhere, but I will do some there and probably some here. I'll probably steer clear around the text. I might just do a little there actually as well. So consider your focal point and a little bit of interest around the edge. You don't want to do anything here though, because that will take away from the sentiment. So now I've done those, just give that a dip in the powder. Yep, and we've got just a bit of interest around the edge there, which you can see. Just along the edge there and here. Okay. Emboss it again. It'll just break up those tone edges. Heat both sides as usual. We're going not too much on the edge so it doesn't detract too much from what we're stamping, but creates just a little bit of interest. Okay, let's just give that a clean. This is quite a nice little stamp set actually. There's four stamps in here and they're all quite interesting to use for edging. Pop them away in a moment. Okay, so next then, just clear my work area. Got a little bit of embossing powder there. Just clean that up. And then the next thing we're going to do is with our gel pad, or jelly plate, to give it its proper name. So basically take that out of its packing. What's interesting with these is you always get bubbles. But bubbles are not bad because bubbles create interesting backgrounds. A lot of people use it on the plastic. They keep it on the plastic all the time. I sometimes take it off, but you can do pretty much whatever you want. So I'm going to ink this up using a brayer. If you've not used one of these before, very useful for getting an ink blend. I'm using these Elements inks by Lavinia. They're really good. I've got two different colours here. I've got Bermuda and I've got russet orange. So I'm going to do a fade from one side to another. Think about your card, think about how it looks. I think I'm going to do blue in the bottom, fading to orange at the top. So I need to ink up the blue. So basically take your ink pad and ink the roller, and then basically work up the pad so that you're getting more blue at the bottom, and as you use it and fade up, it will fade out. Give it a few goes. Now this is what we don't want. So I've got a hard line there, so all you do is you just keep going over it. That will get rid of that hard line. When you think you've got enough blue, give it a clean with just some water. And then do the same in the orange, but I'm going to ink the other end of the brayer because obviously we're now going to do top down. And what you'll find, or what you should find if it works to plan, is that where the two colours meet in the middle, it's a bit slippery, where the two colours meet in the middle you actually get a nice little blend. Okay, cover my ink pads up and I'm going to clean my brayer. Just put that to one side. What I'm going to do now is take this little mini mister, and I'm not going to mist it, I'm just going to use the tube that pulls the water up. I'm just going to flick it like that. And everywhere you flick, it will take the ink off and create an interesting background effect of splats. We do love some splats. There we go. Just going all around the area that you've inked. I mean, you could spray it if you wanted to, but then you'll get a very uniform pattern typically. Okay, so I've done that. Now, this is the moment. I'm taking my card. I'm literally just going to lay it down on top. I usually put the middle down first and then work my way out to the edges. And then just give that a go all over. This doesn't matter because that's going to be the back of the card. What you definitely want to do is make sure you give it all a good press and you're getting ink pretty much across the whole thing. What you can do, take your brayer. Use the brayer on the back. There we go. Take that off. How cool is that? We might need to ink over that because it's white on a quite a light colour effect, but we shall see as we go. Clean your jelly plate. And just pop that to one side. Right, I'm going to dry this with my heat tool. It certainly is an interesting effect, but I'm looking at that and thinking that's actually a bit too light. So we're going to have to go over that. But that's okay, we can use the same inks. Just give it a heat all over. I'm using this on the gentle setting this time. Doesn't need to be as hot as you use for heating embossing. Yeah, it's definitely going to need a bit more colour because you can see the white, but you can't really see it very well. So what we will do is we will go in with our brushes. So I've got a couple of Lavinia brushes here, a big fat one with a sort of an orange tone on it and a smaller one with a blue tone on it. I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper. Pop it underneath, and then I'm going to just use ink directly from the brush. Take some off, and then just start going over, and you see how that brings that text to the fore. So we'll retain some of that interesting background we created, but just by adding a bit more ink, we can more clearly see what we stamped. The joy of card making. There are no mistakes. We change stuff as we go. We are creators. My friend Kate will laugh when she sees this because this is her birthday card. She is a card maker and a good friend of mine. So it's always a little bit more pressure when you're making a card for another card maker because they will spot all the things that didn't go to plan. Right, there we go. So I've just darkened that. There are areas of this that don't need to be so dark. Always take a bit of ink off the brush because otherwise you risk getting a big blob. There we go. See, look how that works. Because you've already got a layer of ink on there, the ink will take much better. And because we're only adding a thin layer of ink on top, you still see all that lovely effect underneath that we created with the spraying and the brayer and the gel pad. I'm loving this, that's great. These brushes from Lavinia are absolutely amazing. I love them. They are out of stock quite a lot of the time, which is the only problem, but I bought several and I absolutely love them. They're fantastic for ink blending. I get a bit of darker colour at the top there if I can. They're so soft, it's actually quite hard to get a block of hard colour. There you go, you can also see some of those edging elements that we did. There you go, that to me is looking rather nice. I quite like that. I think I'm going to go back with the blue and just create a little bit more darkness around the edges here. And then I think we're done with the inking. I'm just blending that bit out because I went a bit too high with the blue. I think it's fine. Go. So how does that look? And you can see the flower against that nice background. It's quite subtle, but it's a hell of a lot of colour, which is great. I'm just going to give that a dry with my heat tool. And it's nice to see actually those little bits we did around the edge have created a little bit of interest there, just taken away from a plain edge. Right, now I'm going to use this, which is interesting, Metallic Gilding Polish. This you get a sponge in the top and then you get the polish in the bottom. What I have done is I've wet this sponge. It needs to be wet, and basically you can see what it does. I'm just going to go along the edges with this just to create a slight gold effect on the edges. There's multiple ways you can do this though. I mean, I actually will go probably slightly onto the edge as well. There you go. But it's just an interesting finisher. You can go round, but I just think it adds a little bit of interest to the edge of a card. As thick or as thin as you want, obviously. Yeah, look, some's actually gone onto the card there, which I don't mind. So actually, I'm going to do a bit more. In the corners. I quite like it. That's one thing I like about card making. Stuff happens, stuff evolves. It's great. There we go. I will give that a proper clean afterwards. So now, let me move this out of the way because that is dirty. You can see, I hope you can see all that lovely edging in gold, which looks interesting. Just adds a little bit more interest to the card. I'm just going to give that another heat. Make sure that's dry. And the gold obviously ties in with the orange, which is quite nice. Looks quite good. Doesn't need more than that. It's interesting. It's got a focal point against an interesting background, a nice basic sentiment. This edging is now dry, so that's absolutely fine. All we need to do now is mount the card. So to create a layer, I'm just going to use my double-sided tape. On the corners to hold those down. Don't need it all the way along on this layer. A little bit in the middle. Peel that off. As you know, if you watch my channel, I always use my tweezers. Right, stick that down. Just making that level by eye. Backing anything onto black always gives it a lift. I use a black back layer most of the time, to be honest. Then I'm just going to use my craft knife and cut those layers. Apologies if you can see my head, but I'm just leaning in to make sure I get those in the right place. And you'll notice as I cut that last bit, I held the card, because at that point there's nothing holding it on. When you're cutting, if you don't do that, sometimes the card goes like that and you end up with a slightly odd edge. So I'm just taking that and basically cutting it. I've now got a 6-inch square card blank here, which I'm just going to fold in half. And then using my bone folder, pull towards the edge to make sure I get it in the right place. Always flip it over, always do the same thing again, just to check. And that is going to look quite nice on that. Again, another layer of double-sided tape. This also, by adding this black frame, it also adds weight to the card and gives it just feels like more quality, because when you open it, it's not some flimsy thing. It just feels like it's actually got a little bit of weight to it, and it feels nicer in your hand. Let's just finish that. And then on this layer, we need a little tiny bit in the middle. And this time we're going to do my bunny ears trick, just so it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. Always check your card is the right way around. Yep. And then just lay it down loosely so it doesn't actually take hold. And stick. Pull the tape off, and there we go. So I think you can see, hopefully you can see the gold and you can see the white detail. It's quite hard to catch sometimes on camera. We've got some nice flecks of gold here and here. We've got a little bit of interest on the edge there, a nice messy edge there. All I need to do now is add a sentiment to that, and that card is done. Thanks for watching today. Hope you've enjoyed that. I'll cut another card in 30 minutes. If you like my style and you're interested in my cards and want to see future videos, please like and subscribe to my channel. Crafts by John UK. You'll also find me on TikTok under the same name, and I actually sell my cards on Etsy and Crafts by John UK as well. Thanks for watching today, and I'll catch you next time.